Ibn Arabi was one of the most famous Sufi masters in history. He was born in 1165 in Murcia, a city in Islamic Spain, and lived during a time when Muslim scholars, philosophers, and mystics were deeply engaged in questions about the universe and God. He traveled widely, meeting scholars and spiritual teachers, and wrote hundreds of works that later generations studied with great care. People often call him Al-Shaykh al-Akbar, which means the greatest master, because of the depth and complexity of his ideas. Ibn Arabi's vision was not only about religious practice, but also about the structure of reality itself. He believed that everything in creation, from the smallest particle to the vastness of the stars, was a reflection of God's presence. In his view, the cosmos was not separate from God, but rather a constant sign of divine creativity. His famous concept, known as the oneness of being, explained that all existence is one, and everything is united through the source of all being, which is God. This vision influenced many later thinkers in both the Islamic world and even some European philosophers. To Ibn Arabi, the study of the universe was not just science or philosophy, but also a path to spiritual truth. He saw the stars, the planets, and the flow of time as a mirror through which one could understand God's wisdom. In his writings, especially when he talked about time and the cosmos, Ibn Arabi brought together deep spirituality and a very structured way of thinking. He gave us a vision where physics, metaphysics, and religion all meet in harmony. Understanding this vision helps us see why his thoughts on time and the universe are still remembered even 800 years later. For Ibn Arabi, time was one of the most mysterious aspects of the universe. He did not see time as a separate, independent thing moving on its own. Instead, he explained that time only exists when something happens. If there is no movement, no change, no event, then there is no time. In his view, time is not a physical object we can touch or hold, but rather an idea that comes from observing change. For example, when the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, we say a day has passed. But the day is only our way of measuring the change in the position of the sun, not an independent force. Ibn Arabi explained that the past has already disappeared, the future has not yet arrived, and the only thing truly real is the present moment. But even the present is not fixed, because it keeps moving and being replaced by another moment. In this way, he described time as something imaginary, created in our minds to understand the flow of events. Only God, he believed, is outside of time, because God is eternal and unchanging. Everything else in creation is tied to the movement of time, but this time is always fleeting and never permanent. What makes Ibn Arabi's idea very unique is that he also said each moment is like a new creation. The world does not remain the same, but is recreated again and again with every instant. This means that the passing of time is actually the constant renewal of creation. To him, every moment is fresh. Every moment is a new gift from God. This thought changes how we look at life, because it means existence is never still, but always alive and new. Ibn Arabi did not believe that time simply moves in a straight line from the past to the future. Instead, he explained that time has cycles and patterns, much like the turning of the seasons or the repeating days of the week. Just as spring follows winter and then comes back again, the universe also moves in repeating rhythms. This idea of cycles was very important in his teaching about the cosmos. Ibn Arabi even described what he called the cosmic week. In this vision, the universe itself is like a grand week, and each day of this week represents a stage of creation. He explained that just as we count our 7 days here on Earth, there are also cosmic days that carry deeper spiritual meaning. Among these days, the most special one is Saturday, which he described as the day of eternity. This Saturday is not the Saturday we know in our calendar, but rather a timeless day in which all other days exist. For him, the days of our earthly week are like shadows or reflections of these greater cosmic days. The meaning behind this idea is that creation is not random. It follows a divine order that repeats, reminding us of God's continuous presence. These cycles of time show us that life is not only moving forward, but also turning back in meaningful ways, always connected to its source. Ibn Arabi wanted people to understand that when we look at the rising of the sun, the changing of the moon, or the rhythm of the seasons, we are actually seeing signs of a greater cosmic rhythm. Time, in his teaching, is a circle of creation and renewal, always pointing back to the eternal reality of God. One of Ibn Arabi's most powerful ideas is that creation is not something that happened only once in the distant past. Instead, he taught that creation is happening right now, in every moment. According to him, the universe is being renewed again and again by God's command. Every instant, the world is recreated in a fresh form, while the previous form disappears. This means that nothing in creation is ever truly fixed or permanent. Even though we see mountains, seas, and stars as stable, Ibn Arabi explained that they are actually changing at every moment, flowing like a river. He used the example of a river to show this. When you look at a river, it seems to be one continuous thing, but the water you see at one moment is not the same water you saw before. In the same way, the universe looks stable, but in reality, it is always moving and always new. This constant renewal is what gives life its energy and meaning. It also shows how close God is to creation, because he is directly involved in every second of existence. For Ibn Arabi, this teaching solved a great mystery: how the world can appear permanent while also always changing. He explained that the permanence belongs only to God, while the changing belongs to creation. The flow of time is therefore the stage on which God's endless creativity is displayed. Every heartbeat, every breath, and every blink of an eye is a sign of this ongoing act of creation. In this vision, life is not something old and fading, but always fresh, always beginning again, always renewed by the divine presence.